I have Paul Diamond on the line with me right now. You'll remember him from his work with Bad Company, Orient Express, AWA Tag Team Champion, CWA Tag Team Champion. We're going to get into some career highlights and talk about your upcoming appearance at Virtual Mania. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. Actually, looking forward to coming up there and visiting with the fans once again.
Where are you coming up from?
Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, nice sunny weather. There you go.
Oh yeah. Mid 80s, sunny, hot.
Can't complain. I'm not too far away from where you're going to be. I'm in Philadelphia suburbs, so finally getting into like the low 60s. So
getting warm.
You won't have too bad of a weekend.
All right, cool.
So as I said, you're coming up. You're actually being advertised as the Orient Express. You're appearing with Pat Tanaka, but you guys actually, if this is WWF fans listening, you guys teamed long before that. You were known as Bad Company. You had a nice run in the CWA, AWA. Just talk about how you guys linked up there and how you guys knew that this was, a solid team. And then, you had Diamond Dallas Page at your side for a while.
Right. Yeah. Well, it actually, it started in Tennessee, working for CWA, which was Jerry Lawler. Jerry Jarrett was an innovator when it comes to this business. And, before we came there, they had created the Fabulous Ones, Steve Curran and Stan Lane. And they used to do all kinds of neat things on their TV, videos and vignettes before there was videos and vignettes. So it was a very, very good place to work as far as learning. And again, very, very creative with their storylines and stuff. So, but I, prior to that, was in San Antonio, Texas All-Star Wrestling. And for a brief moment, Shawn Michaels was my tag team partner there. We were called the American Force. He was just getting started, and when I look at pictures from then, it doesn't look anything like him. Probably hard to recognize. Well, both of us actually. And so he left to the AWA. He had always wanted to be a single star. Well, unfortunately for him, well, I guess fortunately, because it did work out, they tagged him up with Marty Jannetty, and alas, the Rockers were born. But so I went to Tennessee from Texas, and was actually a babyface there, just as a singles. And I think maybe 3 or 4 months after I was there, Pat Tanaka arrived, and so it was a few months. He had actually had a great run with Jeff Jarrett. He was a heel already, and then after they kind of ran out of things. Well, I really wasn't doing anything other than just doing opening matches basically. And Jerry Jarrett created a storyline in which had me turning heel, and sort of by accident. Well, put Pat and I together briefly, but as we started, things started to click, and we saw there was possibly a future there. Neither of us being 300 pounds, so probably wouldn't have been a bad idea to stay as a tag team. So, that's where Bad Company kind of started, and I think so. Probably 87 or 88, we kind of ran out of stuff to do there, and had to look for another place. And we were fortunate at that point to, get an opportunity with the AWA, and the Rockers were still there, and they were looking for somebody to work with. So that started us off on the right foot as soon as we got there. We worked with them some and won the AWA Tag Team Championships, and the Rockers left. AWA basically at that point was kind of, they lost all their main talent. Vince kind of, got everybody that was, a lot of guys that became, big stars, Hulk Hogan, Bobby Heenan, Jesse Ventura. I mean, all those guys left. So that's kind of how we got the opportunity. But it was also good because there was a lot of TV exposure. And, for a while there afterwards, they had AWA on ESPN every afternoon at like 3:30. So I think a lot of people got to see what we could do. And, that did not hurt any at all. But then AWA kind of, sort of about to go out of business. And I actually took a break for a few months. And Pat had got an opportunity to start with WWF as one half of the Orient Express. And his original partner actually was Sato, who was, a very knowledgeable guy in the business. Also, he had connections back with Japan, working in the booking and bringing guys over to Japan from the U.S. And actually, the first time I went to Japan, Sato sent me to go work for Baba back in, I think, 86. So he wanted to get back to kind of that. He really wasn't interested in being on the road, 300 days a year. And the Orient Express was down to just Pat Tanaka and Mr. Fuji as the manager. And they had, obviously were aware of what we had done before that. And I was brought in kind of on a trial basis at first, just as Paul Diamond. And when Sato was gone, they wanted to keep the Orient Express going. So they put me under a mask, since obviously not Oriental, and Kato was born. So, we had a good run there. Unfortunately, I wish it would have lasted longer. At that point, there was only like three babies. There was still the Rockers, the Bushwhackers, LOD, and to a certain extent, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. Bret was kind of starting to do his own thing. So we ran through all the three babyface tag teams, and there wasn't a whole lot for us to do. So that ended the Orient Express. Basically, I had stayed for a while doing some single stuff, and Pat, I think at that point they had let him go, and he did some stuff for WCW and such. But yeah, that's basically how the and I guess I kind of skipped in the AWA. You had mentioned Diamond Dallas Page. The one thing that I've always kind of realized our shortcoming was interviews, on the mic, really at that point weren't very proficient at it, and adding Diamond Dallas Page added a lot as far as that went. I mean, we could work with anybody, but, come to interviews just weren't what we should have been, especially when you're world tag team champion. So yeah, he stayed with us. At that point, he hadn't, he just got in the business, had not wrestled. And of course, as we know, he went on to do great things and still doing great things.
Did he ever talk about like trying to wrestle back then? Because I know he
got
into
it. He had an interest. In fact, while he was with us at one of the shows, I don't remember exactly where it was. I think Pat was injured and didn't wasn't able to wrestle, and so that was, I think, Page's probably the first match. I mean, he had never wrestled before, but it was him and I in a tag team the one night, and I'm guessing maybe that sort of gave him even more of an itch to get in the business. But once that AWA kind of ended, I think he somehow got in contact with Dusty Rhodes, who was very responsible for getting him trained, getting him started as far as working.
Mm-hmm. Now, I wanted to touch on something you just mentioned about, you said that you had somebody speaking for you because of the promo skills or the lack of. But
right. Yeah.
I mean, you look at the two people that were put with you. DDP, what can't you say about him? he can talk, he can wrestle, but you know, early on he's like the perfect guy to put with you. And then you have Mr. Fuji, who, you know, is notorious for being like one of the best heels in the business. So
Right.
do you feel like, despite not being prepared, you know, for maybe like cutting your own promos, do you feel like that was the bet, you know, like that was the best case scenario that you could be in?
Yeah, you know, probably it was. Like I said, because I know for myself that you know that's a shortcoming that I always had, uh, and as Kato, of course, you know, supposedly being Japanese, I was kind of fortunate. In fact, I don't know, fortunate, but they wouldn't let me speak as Kato. They wouldn't let me. So, you know, I didn't really have to worry. When I first started with the Orient Express, I remember doing the very first promo together, and I wound up talking on it, and you know, cut. Kato doesn't speak. Oh, okay, cool. So, but yeah, no, it was good. It was good. You know, Fuji had been in WWF for many years and was well known, like you said, as a heel working as well as manager. So it definitely did not hurt us.
Do you have any, while we're on the topic of Mr. Fuji, do you have any funny rib stories that he played on you? Or maybe you were witness to?
Oh man, yeah, witness witness to some crazy stuff, but I don't know if I guess probably, you know, sort of the worst or the best, the way you want to look at it. There was a guy from Japan. I think we were either like in Rochester, New York, or somewhere. Anyways, after the matches, we were at the hotel bar, and this guy was sitting with us, and he went to the bathroom, and while he was gone, Fuji wound up pissing in his beer. And yeah, and the guy came back and actually drank it, and then after that, Fuji proceeded to tell him what had happened, and I never seen. I mean, the guy started crying. I mean, I guess he was kind of probably, you know, had a few beers, a little buzzed and stuff. But yeah, he started crying after he found out what happened. That's probably, Fuji was notorious for, man. Yeah, that'd be about the best or the worst, whichever way you want to look at it.
That's fantastic's not the right word to use, but that's
no, no. But you know, and he liked to rib people, but she surely didn't like to be ribbed. You know, I remember people messing with this top hat, and man, he didn't like that too much. Get really
don't touch his hat.
Upset. No, yeah, no.
So one other thing I wanted to ask about the actual Orient Express team was, you mentioned, you know, you're not of Japanese descent, and was it just a case of they knew you and Pat worked together and they said, okay, let's put him under the mask?
Yeah, well, it was that. And actually, before they made that move, there was one card. Man, I forget the town now. But anyway, so I think somewhere in Indiana or something. And I was supposed to work with somebody else, and it was supposed to be the Rockers and Orient Express. Well, you know, Sato wasn't there, so they changed the card around and put Pat and I together, and we worked with the Rockers in just a house show. And you know, we had a heck of a match. I think that had a long way to go, you know, for them realizing, wow, these guys, you know, really good together. So I think, you know, that did have a lot to do with that, because shortly after that, you know, I was offered the spot as part of the Orient Express.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you, like, at the time, did you have any thoughts about, you know, being asked to portray a Japanese character? Did anybody ever say, like, let's not put him under the mask, or let's have them be Bad Company on TV? Because I know earlier in the call you said that they wanted to continue the Orient Express team. So was there any conversations about ever being Bad Company or a version of Bad Company?
No, that never came up. They just, you know, I got a call saying, hey, you know, this is what we got, you know, And I was just glad to get an opportunity to sort of move up and, do something different.
And I wanted to move back a little bit before we move forward.
Sure.
But
Yep.
one thing that I did learn, I think you might have mentioned it, but you teamed with Jeff Jarrett in CWA before you linked up with Pat. What was that like?
It was good. Man, I've known Jeff. Jeff was like before he graduated high school. He was like part of the ring crew and refereeing and stuff. And finally, after he graduated high school, his dad let him wrestle. And so he was like green as grass as far as at that point, but he's very talented. So, he'd been around business his whole life. So, he was just getting started. So, but yeah, it was fun. That was just kind of a brief angle that we had done. I think involving again Japanese. I think Tojo Yamamoto was a big name there in Tennessee, and he'd always had a couple of Japanese boys. So yeah, I think we had worked an angle where they broke my leg, and while I had gone to Japan, and then I came back, and so Jeff and I worked that for a little bit, but that it wasn't like we were ever a tag team that was going to stay together, or it was just for a brief spurt there for that angle.
Mm-hmm. Now, jumping forward a little bit, you said Pat left WWF, the Orient Express was done, and they asked you to portray Max Moon. What was that pit?
Right.
Do you recall?
How could I forget? I mean, it's sort of I'll try and make it as short as possible, but obviously, everybody like, oh, well, we thought Conan was Max Moon, and actually, realistic, Cone never was Max Moon. They were going to call him Comet Kid, and actually, I don't know Conan very well, and I'm not really sure what happened, but at this particular TV taping, I think it was again, all runs together. But anyway, so he never showed up at the event, and WWF has there's three sisters that they sort of do all the costumes for the guys, and I was talking to them and saying, hey, wow, look at they made you guys do this costume really fast, and now and there's nobody even aware. And if you make a few small alterations, I bet I could fit into it. And Vince's office, we were at TV taping, was kind of like just across the way. And so he stuck his head out the door of his office, and he goes, well, what do you guys laugh? What are you talking about? I said, no, I was just, telling the girls that, make a few small changes. I could probably fit into that Max Moon costume. And at that point, it wasn't Max Moon. It was, again, Comet Kid or whatever the heck they were going to call it. Mm-hmm. But so oh yeah, okay. And he shut his door, and we kept on talking, and maybe a half hour later, the door opens to his office again, and he pointed at me, you come here. What would I do? And he had me come into his office. He goes, you know what you're talking about? He said, okay, you got it. It's yours. Do what you want with it. So talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so that the rest, and that's so sorry. And so they, I had to go to LA and get fitted for all the stupid pieces to the costume that was originally going to be a part of, and made my debut as Comet Kid, I think Hershey TV, Hershey, Pennsylvania. And the next time I showed up at TV taping, they have, I think it was Arnold Skoll, he would hand out all the airplane tickets and stuff, and they go, Max Moon. Who the heck's that? And nobody even told me they were changing name, and that's how I kind of found out that now I was Max Moon. So yeah,
that's how that worked out. That you brought up a good point. Is people think it's Conan, but if you go back and look at a lot of the promo pics, that's you in the studio.
Yeah,
you did the match, and I think more recently he did an interview, and he pretty much said he got himself fired and never showed up. So
That's exactly what I mean. I didn't know the reason, but yeah, he just never showed up. Well, I don't know for what reason.
Yeah, I
But
think I think he said that he
I
like
think
went back to
initially,
Mexico, but
yeah, no, he did. But I think initially, the whole uh that whole gimmick, whatever it was going to be called, Max Moon, this kid, I think that was his idea. He was gonna. I mean, what I did with it was what I did with it, but he was gonna do like I saw him, do like a couple of tryout things, and he was gonna like do this robot thing because like this whole thing had like this helmet with like these lights and he did like how they do dancing like a robot and stuff.
mhm.
So that's what he was gonna do, but then said, "Do what you want with it." And I'm not much of a dancer, so I just kind of did what I did.
Yeah, it's kind of strange how it all worked out, but I know we've been talking a lot about 90s stuff. It's kind of, it kind of makes sense because, you're doing 80s wrestling con, but I know they're branching out into 90s. So I just want to pause briefly to plug the event if anybody wants to participate.
Oh yeah. Well, heck, they better participate. Come on now.
Well, 80s Wrestling Con presents Virtual Mania. You better participate, but you can get some autographs from Paul and Pat. They're appearing as the Orient Express, but I'm sure they have some Bad Company photos, some Max Moon photos, shout outs when you call in or when you join the live stream.
Always look forward to meeting the fans and signing autographs and talking to them. I mean, obviously it's been a long time, but I really appreciate the fact that the fans have usually good things to say about us or myself, and never really realized that as the time went by that we had provided some good entertainment for a bunch of people. So I look forward to talking with them, signing autographs, whatever they need.
And in closing, I wanted to ask, we covered a lot of ground and, we didn't even get into the ECW reunion of Bad Company, but looking back on your career, whether it was, the original Bad Company, Orient Express, Max Moon, all of that, is there a match or moment that you would point to and said, you know what, that's the one I want people to remember me by? That's, that's really a moment that I want my legacy to be like that, put forth my best effort in the ring as a wrestler.
Yeah. I think it's one that, and I sort of took me in that direction as when I look at the matches. A lot of people talk about the 91 Royal Rumble opening match against the Rockers. I mean, it seems like it was, it's kind of ahead of its time a little bit as tag team wrestling goes. And, I hear a lot of compliments to people. Oh man, I remember watching 91 Royal Rumble. You guys had a, great match. And I thought it was, but, anytime working with the Rockers was a thrill and a pleasure. And, we kind of clicked together. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. All right. You heard it from him. Paul Diamond is appearing at Virtual Mania this weekend for 80s Wrestling Con. You can check them out. Everything's on the 80s Wrestling Con website. You can get 8x10 shout outs. I'm sure people have sent in their own merchandise. It's going to be quite the weekend for you. And just wanted to say thank you very much for your time today.
No problem. Anytime. And again, looking forward to interacting with as many fans as possible and looking forward to getting up there and doing our thing.